On the outside, they were the picture of power, a millionaire couple who seemed to have everything. Their sprawling mansion in one of New York's most exclusive neighborhoods was a fortress of luxury, a symbol of their success in the ruthless world of international perfume. But inside the gilded walls of that $2 million home, a monstrous secret was hidden. They believed their fortune made them untouchable, but they never accounted for the one person they saw as less than human, their housekeeper. She saw everything, and she was about to do the unthinkable, single-handedly bringing their empire crashing down and changing their fate from powerful millionaires to convicted felons. This is the story of modern-day slavery in the heart of America and the incredible courage of the woman who escaped it. In the ultra-rich enclave of Muttontown, Long Island, where old money and new fortunes live behind manicured hedges and iron gates, Mahinder and Varsha Subnani were living the American dream. Mahinder, an immigrant from India, and his wife Varsha from Indonesia were both naturalized U.S. citizens who had built a global perfume empire from scratch. Their business was a massive success, giving them a life most people can only imagine, a palatial home valued at over $2 million, luxury cars, and a place among high society. They had 4 grown children and projected the perfect image of a successful, happy family. To the outside world, the Subnanis were known for their supposed charity. Their lawyers would later present 175 letters to the court detailing their philanthropy. Varsha Subnani herself told a judge, "I was brought to this earth to help people who are in need." This carefully built image of kindness and power made them seem invincible. But every empire needs workers, and the Subnani household was no different. To run their lavish home, they looked to their home region, seeking out women from Indonesia who were desperate for a better life. These were women with little education, who spoke no English, and had families back home who depended on them. They were promised a steady income and a chance in the land of opportunity. In February of 2002, a woman known only as Samira arrived at the mansion. She was a mother of 5, and the promise of $100 to $150 a month sent directly to her family was a lifeline she couldn't refuse. 3 years later, in January of 2005, another woman named Inung joined the household under the same promise, hoping to support her 9 children. For Samira and Inung, the journey to America was filled with hope. They thought they were leaving poverty behind. The massive Subnani mansion must have been breathtaking, but the dream shattered the moment they walked through the door. The first thing their new employers did wasn't to welcome them, it was to trap them. Varsha and Mahinder Subnani immediately took their passports, visas, and all other forms of ID. In an instant, their connection to the outside world was gone. They weren't employees anymore, they were prisoners. The gilded cage had slammed shut. Inside the Muttontown mansion, Varsha Subnani was the architect of a private, sadistic hell. The kindness she showed the world was a grotesque mask for the cruelty she unleashed on the 2 women inside her home. Her husband, Mahinder, wasn't an active participant in the physical torture, but he was a silent, complicit partner. He ran his perfume business from an office next to the house, and as the trial judge later said, he had to know all these dreadful things and did nothing. He let the abuse happen and benefited from the slave labor that ran his home. The abuse wasn't random, it was a systematic campaign of torture meant to break their spirits. For the smallest mistake, sleeping late, messing up a chore, or getting caught taking food from the garbage because they were starving, the punishment was swift and brutal. This wasn't just a frustrated boss, this was torture. Varsha turned everyday household items into weapons. The women testified that she beat them with brooms and umbrellas and slashed them with knives. Even the elements became tools of torment. She would force the women into freezing cold showers or punish them with scalding hot water until, as Samira testified, the skin was cooked. The psychological cruelty was just as bad. Sleep was a luxury they were rarely afforded, with workdays stretching to nearly 20 hours. They were forbidden from contacting their families, cutting them off from their entire world. Varsha seemed to enjoy their degradation, inventing punishments that were as humiliating as they were painful. In one of the most horrific accounts, Samira was accused of stealing food and forced to eat dozens of fiery chili peppers. When she inevitably threw up, Varsha forced her to eat her own vomit. It was a clear message: you are not human. Inung testified that Varsha ordered her to wrap Samira's naked body in plastic tape and then rip it off, tearing at her skin while she screamed in agony. Through acts like this, Varsha not only tortured her victims, but forced them to torture each other, destroying any bond between them. Varsha's God complex was absolute. Samira recalled trying to pray once, only for Varsha to stop her, declaring, "I am your God. I can make you dead." For 5 long years, Samira endured this hell. Inung suffered for 2.5 years. They were hidden from visitors, sometimes locked in closets. They were told that if they ever ran, the police would shoot them and their families in Indonesia would be jailed, a powerful threat that kept them imprisoned by fear. But after years of unimaginable pain, a spark of defiance was growing in Samira. She knew she couldn't survive this forever. She had to escape. The morning of May 13, 2007 was Mother's Day. For most, it was a day of celebration. But inside the Sabnani mansion, it was just another day of fear. For Samira, though, something had changed. After 5 years of torture, she'd had enough. She was going to run. Her chance was a tiny crack in the fortress walls. While taking out the trash, a simple chore that briefly took her outside, she made a break for it. Dressed in rags, she didn't have a plan. She just ran. Her body was a road map of the abuse she had fled, covered in scars and fresh, oozing wounds behind her ears. Malnourished and terrified, she wandered through the unfamiliar, wealthy streets of Sayat. Luck, or maybe fate, led her to a Dunkin' Donuts. The sight of this battered, pleading woman was a shock. The people inside saw her injuries, saw her desperation, and did the right thing. They called the police. When Nassau County police officers arrived, the story Samira told must have sounded like something from another century. She spoke of being held captive, tortured, and starved in a mansion just down the road. It was a story of modern-day slavery, right in one of Long Island's richest towns. The authorities took her seriously. A multi-agency force, including ICE and local police, got a search warrant for the Sabnani's $2 million home. When law enforcement entered the mansion, they began their search, which led them to the basement. There, hiding in a small, dark closet under the stairs, they found Inung. Cowering in fear, she was living proof of every horrific detail Samira had described. The next day, May 14, 2007, Mohender and Varsha Sabnani were arrested. The millionaire couple who thought they were untouchable were led from their mansion in handcuffs. In a single day, they went from elites to criminal defendants. The housekeeper they had treated as property had just triggered the complete collapse of their empire. The arrest of the Sabnani sent shockwaves through their wealthy community. The story was so lurid it immediately became a high-profile case. As Assistant U.S. Attorney Mark Lesko said in court, "This did not happen in the 1800s. This happened in the 21st century. This happened in Muttontown, New York." The couple, used to luxury and control, found themselves in a system they couldn't buy their way out of. After spending nearly 3 months in jail, they were granted release on an extraordinary $4.5 million bond and had to pay an estimated $10,000 a day for private security to ensure they didn't flee the country. The federal trial began on October 22, 2007. The star witnesses were Samira and Inung. Speaking through an interpreter, they bravely took the stand and detailed the years of horrific abuse, the beatings, the stabbings, and the psychological torment. Their testimony painted a vivid and undeniable picture of life inside the House of Horrors. The defense team's job was nearly impossible. They couldn't deny the women's injuries, so they attacked their credibility with increasingly bizarre arguments. They claimed the women made the whole thing up out of jealousy. Then they took a stranger turn, arguing that the housekeepers practiced witchcraft and their injuries were self-inflicted as part of an Indonesian ritual. The jury didn't buy it. After deliberating for just 2 days, the jury came back on December 17, 2007. They found Mahendra and Varsha Sobnani guilty on all 12 counts, including forced labor, peonage, and conspiracy. The moment the verdict was read, the courtroom exploded into chaos. The couple's facade shattered. Varsha Sobnani, the architect of the torture, collapsed onto her husband's chest and then fainted on the floor. The shock hit her family just as hard. One of her daughters also fainted and was rushed to the hospital. In June 2008, the sentences came down. Judge Arthur D. Spatt called the testimony eye-opening. Varsha Sobnani was sentenced to 11 years in federal prison and fined $25,000. Mahendra Sobnani, who the judge said did nothing to stop the abuse, received 40 months. The Sobnanis' fate was sealed. Their reputations were destroyed, their freedom was gone, and their empire was in ruins. Conclusion and aftermath. After the criminal trial, the story wasn't over. With the help of the Asian American Legal Defense Fund and Education Fund, AAADLF, Samira and Anung filed a civil suit against the Sobnanis. In July 2008, a federal judge awarded them nearly $1 million in restitution for back wages. It was a powerful acknowledgement of their stolen labor. Samira and Anung were granted T visas, which are designated for survivors of human trafficking, allowing them to stay in the U.S. and rebuild their lives. Their courage shined a harsh light on the hidden crime of domestic servitude that continues even in the wealthiest communities. As for Varsha and Mahendra Sobnani, they served their prison sentences after their appeals failed. Their mansion, once a symbol of power, became a monument to their depravity. Their story is a stark reminder that incredible wealth can hide the darkest secrets and that no one is truly above the law. Ultimately, this is a story about the resilience of the human spirit. It's about how a woman pushed to the very edge found the strength to fight back. Samira's escape on Mother's Day wasn't just a run for her life. It was an act that brought a hidden world of horror into the light. She went from a nameless victim to the woman who brought down her powerful tormentors. Her fate and theirs was changed forever by a single, desperate act of courage. If you found this story as compelling as I did, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel for more deep dives into cases where the truth is stranger than fiction. Thank you for watching.